to you. I am Lisa Ram, host of Morning Edition on WABE in Atlanta. Welcome to the Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young Debate Series from the studios of Georgia Public Broadcasting. The 2026 debate series was made possible by grants to the Atlanta Press Club from the Arthur M. Blank Family Foundation and the Robert Charles Loudermilk Sr. Foundation. This is the debate for candidates running for Fulton County Commission Chair. We have two journalists who will question the candidates. Delaney Tarr is a journalist at Supporter Report in Atlanta. Thomas Wheatley is a reporter at Axios in Atlanta. Welcome to you both. I'm going to kick off today's debate asking each of the candidates to introduce themselves and tell viewers why they should be the next Fulton County Commission Chair. Candidates will have 60 seconds to introduce themselves. We will go in alphabetical order, starting with Mo Ivory.
Good evening, and thank you to the Atlanta Press Club for hosting this conversation. My name is Mo Ivory. I'm a wife, a mother of 6, and a grandmother of 2. I am a Spelman College graduate, a law professor, and an attorney. I am a former Fulton County Commissioner. Today, the question should be, where will Fulton County go next? Will we work to resolve the decades-long problems with fresh new leadership, or continue to manage the problems and avoid the solutions? Those problems include the jail crisis, underfunded courts, healthcare disparities, and attacks on our elections. The chair cannot simply react to those problems. The chair must set priorities, build consensus, and provide oversight, and make sure county government is delivering results. For too long, we have had the same leadership, the same excuses, and the same unresolved problems. The jail is still in crisis, and the courts are underfunded. I will bring new leadership to the commission, and that is also the leadership that I will bring as chair.
Thank you. Robb Pitts is next.
Thank you very much. I've been privileged to serve our community first as a member of the Atlanta City Council, as City Council President, as a member of the Board of Commissioners, and for the past 7 years as Chairman of the Board of Commissioners of Fulton County. I've served you with honor and dignity and never, ever embarrassed you. Under my leadership, Fulton County has become known as one of the top counties in these United States of America, and that's a big deal. There are some 3,000 plus counties in the United States of America, and by some accounts, we are number 4. We've had our challenges. We came through COVID, we came through a cyber attack, and we're still fighting to protect our election workers. But let's be real clear. The number one issue here is raising your taxes. I will not raise your taxes as others have indicated that they will. I will not raise your taxes.
Thank you, Mr. Pitts. Now, for the full set of debate rules, please visit atlantapressclub.org. Our panel will now ask a question to an individual candidate, rather. We'll start with Delaney Tarr, who will ask a question for Robb Pitts. Once again, you have 60 seconds for your response. Delaney.
Thank you both so much for being here. Chairman Pitts, your campaign has focused heavily on consistency and your existing track record. Beyond the existence of a track record and consistency for the sake of itself, what specifically do you bring to the table in this election season?
Experience is the key here, the key difference. We are in a crisis here in Fulton County. We're under attack by Washington, and this is not the time for on-the-job training. I do have the experience. I do have the contacts. You know, you need to note this. We have all of the cuts that have taken place with other counties and other cities. Not one penny has been cut from Fulton County from the grants that we received. Why is that? Because of contacts, because of relationships. So experience does matter. This is not the time for on-the-job training. In addition to that, there are certain programs that I have spearheaded that we're going to see through to completion during these next 4 years, including renovations at our jail, including a new healthcare complex in South Fulton County, including a new botanical gardens in College Park, and including a truck driving and logistics school in South Fulton County. Projects that I've started, projects that I am going to complete on time and within budget without a tax increase.
Mr. Pitts, thank you. Thomas Wheatley, please ask Mo Ivory a question.
Hey, Ms. Ivory. You're running on a platform of fresh ideas and new leadership at the commission, but you recently served on the commission. What prevented you from pursuing these policies and proposals while you were there?
Yes, thank you so much for that question. On-the-job training sounds like a great campaign slogan, although a few months ago, Chairman Pitts praised my experience and actually called me, and I quote, the future of Fulton County. The reason it's been hard for me to pass any legislation is because of Chairman Pitts' gang of four. Chairman Pitts has 4 votes on a 7 commission that consistently passes legislation that is aligned with Republicans. 2 of his 4 votes are Republicans, 1 a MAGA Republican. So every time I've tried to pass legislation, for example, creating a women's commission, creating a task force to study commercial tax appraisals, putting together a task force for TAD assessment in light of Mayor Andre Dickens' plans. I have tried over and over again to provide money for seniors, to actually fund the jail crisis, to actually fund the courts, to put money in healthcare in South Fulton, on the south side of Fulton, and to protect our election workers. But Chairman Pitts votes consistently with 2 Republicans, which makes it impossible for us to continue to move forward Democratic values.
Thomas, it's your turn to ask Robb Pitts a question.
Chairman Pitts, you've advocated for more representation on the MARTA board for Fulton County. If you were able to get more seats or have a greater voice, how do you see that affecting transit in Metro Atlanta?
Well, first and foremost, I think that we need someone on that MARTA board who actually uses MARTA. Right now, we're at a disadvantage on Fulton County because we only have 1 representative. North County has 2, City of Atlanta has 4. The other thing that complicates all of this now is the fact that the recent action by the governor and the state to do away with ATL and Greta further complicates the issue. And I spoke out about that today. The governor, a good governor, great governor, as a matter of fact, personal friend, but of his appointees, guess what? I think there are 6 white males, 1 white female, and 1 Indian. No one of color, real color, on that board. No one from South County. So therefore, that's a problem, which today led me to call the lieutenant governor, who has 2 appointees, and the Speaker of the House, who has 2 appointees, to plead with them that we need to make sure that there's adequate and equitable representation on this new entity, which will involve funding for MARTA.
Thank you. Delaney, you have the last question of this round for Mo Ivory.
Ms. Ivory, the commission has a history of tension and some perceived animosity. If elected chair, what would you do to handle that animosity, create camaraderie, and enforce decorum on the commission?
Thank you so much for that question. I will instill respect amongst all of the commissioners. It is not a body of 4, as Chairman Pitts likes to command the entire board, that it only takes 4 people. He's often said, and I quote, "I don't need that many cooks in the kitchen." I don't believe in that. I believe that 7 people are voted by the constituents who vote them into elected office, and their voice matters in the decision-making. So I would include everybody in the decision-making. I will change the culture in Fulton County so that we can respect what we are doing as a body, that the voters can feel like we are handling their issues with respect. And I think respect starts at the top, and the way that you lead will trickle down to the entire commission. So I will include a great gang of 7, a great body of 7 that were elected together to decide things. I will reinstitute committees, and I will have everybody to have a voice. Instead of 4 people having a voice, 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans, which make up Chairman Pitts' gang of 4.
Mr. Pitts, you were called out for having so-called cooks in the kitchen. Would you like to respond there?
Thank you for that. You know, and first of all, you have to be there long enough to understand what the rules are and how the Board of Commissioners works. You can't get there, and let me back up. I brought her there, taught her the rules, raised her money, and what happened? She quit. Quit on me and quit on her constituents. You cannot come into a body like that and think that you're going to take over and not work with people. This is not a stepping stone to run for mayor of Atlanta, which is what she's using this position for. It does take 4 votes to get anything done, and as chairman, I support good legislation, and I absolutely work to defeat bad legislation. And the most recent bad piece of legislation, which she authored, was to raise property taxes by 14%.
Your time is up, Mr. Pitts. I'm
vote
sorry.
against it again.
Mo Ivory, you are awarded a rebuttal there.
Thank you so much. This is what happens when someone is fighting for their political life, fighting to hold on to the power that they've known for almost 50 years. I understand how hard this is for you. I understand that you brought me to this commission, and I thank you. And I thank you for your years of service. But when I got there and I realized that Chairman Pitts votes with Republicans, won a MAGA Republican, and did not care about what I wanted to pass as legislation, I knew I would not stay there, because I did not come there for galas and ribbon cuttings. I came to do policy. I came for legislation, and I did not quit. Chairman Pitts loves to do the lie about I quit.
We're going to have to stop there.
I had to step down by state law to run.
We're going to have to move to the next round where you two can ask questions of one another. That concludes our first round. Each candidate will now ask a question to their opponent. You'll have 30 seconds to ask the question, 60 seconds to respond, and the person who asked the question will get a 30-second rebuttal. We will begin with Mo Ivory.
Thank you so much. Chairman Pitts, Fulton County has 5 Democrats on the Fulton County Commission, yet voting records show you voted with MAGA Republicans 96% of the time. Why do you vote with MAGA Republicans?
Nothing could be further from the truth. In the first place, over the course of a term, we cast some 4,000 votes. Probably 98% of our votes are unanimous votes. The times that she's talking about, I will work with anyone to pass legislation that's going to benefit the citizens of Fulton County. If it means stepping across the aisle and getting 2 people who happen to belong to another party to vote with me to defeat raising property taxes on people who cannot afford it, our seniors, our people on fixed incomes, and young families who are just starting out, I will do it every time.
Ivory, Ms. Mo Ivory, do you have a rebuttal?
Sure. Check the record, please. 96% of the time, Chairman Pitts has voted with MAGA Republicans. Of those times, let me give you some examples of those votes. Voting to decrease the amount of money in an already agreed upon contract for affordable housing in the city of Atlanta. We then had to beg him to put that money back in. He voted no in the beginning to that. He voted no to $1 million for senior services to improve seniors' services going to seniors. He voted no against a women's commission. He voted no against a task force for tax assessments for commercial properties.
Thank you.
So please do not believe that.
We appreciate that. Robb Pitts, it's your turn to ask Mo Ivory a question.
I don't have a question for her because she's going to lie anyway. But what I will ask her to do is explain to the public, not to me, why she hadn't even filed, she believes in transparency, hasn't even filed her campaign disclosures, why she hadn't talked about her bankruptcies, her personal financial problems. Suits filed on her by the state of Georgia, by Fulton County, by the city of Atlanta, by American Express, by banks. Even her own personal doctor has filed suit against her. And don't let me start talking about the other financial issues. If you're going to talk about being the chair of one of the top counties in these United States of America with a $1 billion general fund budget, you ought to be able to handle your own personal finances.
Mo Ivory, your rebuttal.
Yeah. I mean, this is what desperation of holding on to power looks like. It's kind of sad. This is what the intrinsic relationships that have a lot of contracts in Fulton County with a lot of pressure to keep those going looks like. Lie upon lie upon lie. I have never voted to raise anyone's taxes. I have never proposed a 15% tax increase. First it was 12%, then 13%, then 14%. This is what desperation of a career politician who does not want to pass the baton looks like. I went to Chairman Pitts and I asked him, because he said, speaking of lies, in 2022 that was his final term in office. Check the record, AJC article. But here we stand. This is a man holding on to power, and I respect his service, but respectfully, sir, it is time for new leadership in Fulton County, and I am here to deliver on that necessity.
Mr. Pitts, your rebuttal to holding on to power.
Okay, thank you.
Your rebuttal, Mr. Pitts.
Lies. Check the record. Lies, lies, lies. She will do anything, say anything, to become the next mayor of Atlanta. This is not a stepping stone for that job. We have problems in Fulton County that we're going to address with sound public policy. It's not the loudest voice in the room. It's not the flashiest voice in the room. It's getting the work done. And do I work with others who may not look like me, who have a different opinion? Absolutely.
Thank
to
you.
deliver for the people of Fulton County.
Thank you. There is still more to come. You are watching the Democratic runoff debate for Fulton County Commission Chair. We'll now go back to the panel, who will ask questions to the candidate of their choice until we run out of time. Thomas Wheatley, we start with you.
My question is for both of y'all, starting with Chairman Pitts, if we can. Fulton County has been contending with overcrowding and what DOJ describes as unconstitutional conditions at the Rice Street Jail for years, really decades. What needs to be done to improve conditions there? Would you support building a new jail? What's the long-term solution?
I do not support building a new jail, because if you build a new jail at a cost of $2 billion to $3 billion, what I call a country club facility that will have some 4,000 or 5,000 beds, who are you going to put in those beds? Black and brown men. That's not the answer. What I proposed was the only voice at the time, but the full board came around in the final analysis, renovating Rice Street and building a separate facility on that same footprint would have 15 beds. Why 1,500 beds, rather? That facility, a medical facility, will be used to treat those detainees who have either a mental issue or a substance abuse issue, and that number is about 70% of the men and women in our care. But it is you got to understand the role of the board. The board provides the funding. We do not manage the jail. The sheriff runs the jail. We're responsible for the physical plant, but the management of the jail is the sheriff's responsibility.
Thank you so much. Delaney, it's your turn too. I'm sorry. Mo Ivory, please answer the same question.
Can you repeat
My
the question,
apologies.
Yes. What needs to be done to improve the conditions at the jail? What is a long-term solution? And do you think that we should build a new jail?
Thank you so much for that question. I absolutely support building a new jail. If Chairman Pitts had built a new jail 20 years ago, when it was also crumbling and overcrowded, we wouldn't be paying 2026 prices right now. He balks about the prices, but he is the very reason why the price of the jail is what it's going to be now, because he has sat on it and not done anything about it in more than 2 decades. I absolutely support building a new jail where there is one crumbling. I also support funding the courts properly, which Chairman Pitts has also never done. You can keep the population of the jail down by moving cases through quickly. That is what funding the courts would allow. So yes, it is time to build a new jail. Calling it a country club is such a ridiculous disconnection from what we have right now. If you went to the Fulton County Jail today and saw the conditions, you couldn't even say those words, country club. You would just say, let's make it humanitarily inhabitable. And you would say, our residents deserve more than that.
Thank you. Mr. Pitts, that warrants a rebuttal.
You know, it's really interesting. I have a 5-point plan that was approved by the board unanimously to reduce the population of the jail, which would not require any additional money. And that is the issue that the federal monitor is talked to us about. We need to reduce the population of that jail before she imposes a cap. My plan would immediately, within a month or two, reduce that jail population by approximately 1,500 inmates. So that's leadership.
Thank you very much. Delaney, it's your turn to ask a question of either candidate.
I'd like to follow up on some of these jail points, because this is a major issue in Fulton County. Specifically, Chairman Pitts, you say you have a 5-point plan for immediacy. I'd like to hear about what some of these immediate actions you plan to take are. And Ms. Ivory, same for you, if you have immediate actions that you'd plan to take to mitigate this jail issue. Chairman Pitts.
The issue is to reduce the jail population. That is what the monitor suggested. That is what the board believes needs to be done, and that's what the general public needs to be done. First and foremost, the simple use of ankle monitors worked very well for us during COVID. Number 2, things like when you go to a doctor's appointment now, you are notified in advance that you have an upcoming appointment. Well, certain jails across the country are now utilizing that same system to notify people when they have an upcoming court date. Because if you do not come, that's a failure to appear, and that means you're arrested and you go back to jail. So that's just 2 of those 5 points that we're talking about. And there's been sign off on it by the Justice Department. So I'm hoping that that will be implemented in totality in the very near future. The other point that I'd like to make is that we have what's called a detention center, where when officers make an arrest in the field, they have an opportunity to offer the person the opportunity to go to jail or to the detention center. We're going to utilize that more as we move forward as well, and that will.
Thank you, Mr. Pitts. You are out of time. Mo Ivory, please answer the question.
Thank you so much. Chairman Pitt's 5-point plan is not new. I only wish that he would have introduced it 25 years ago so that we would have been able to implement those very things in his 5-point plan. It's great to bring up something that are ideas that people have been talking about for years in an election year, but he hasn't moved on one of them in the last 2 decades. So I think the very most important thing that we need to do for the jail is actually fund it properly. In this year's budget, Chairman Pitts cut $3 million in 2026, despite having a monitor's report that says we must fund the jail, cut $3 million from the consent decree costs, making it impossible for us to meet the consent decree requirements. So I would like to first and foremost actually fund the consent decree issues and fund the jail properly to move forward and solve the problems.
Thank you. Thomas, we go back to you for a question.
Thank you. Another big issue facing the county is the decision whether to participate in the city's tax allocation districts and the extension. Where do you stand on Fulton County participating in the TADs, and why? And this is for both of you, and please start with Ms. Ivory.
Yes, I fully support moving forward and having very good discussions about the extensions of the TADs. I know the good work that the TADs do in the area of affordable housing, in homelessness. The TAD money that Chairman Pitts cut out of the budget in 2026 for homelessness, which was about $2.1 million, was for permanent supportive housing services for the homeless. We need to use that money to help the city of Atlanta with those issues. We need to bring all of the things that our neighborhoods, our underserved neighborhoods, have not gotten with the TADs. I'd like to get a deep analysis of the data and the performance of the TADs and make the decisions as to which ones should be extended. But I'm in full support of Mayor Dickens trying to use this money to improve the neighborhoods that have not been served well, because most of Fulton County's money has been invested on the north side.
Mr. Pitts.
Thank you for that question. The mayor and I are talking about TADs now, whether to extend those TADs and which ones. He made a great step recently when he removed the Beltline TAD from his request and one other. So we're talking about that. We met last week and talked. We're going to get together in the next couple of weeks. My staff and the mayor's staff are already meeting to go over a plan and a framework for doing this. I'm supportive not of a blanket extension of all of those TADs, because it does have negative implications for Fulton County, for our budget. A blanket extension has negative implications for the school board's budget, and I think we're going to be able to work that out. We're making progress, so the final act has not been heard on those TADs. But I am supportive of moving forward with some, but we'll take them on a case-by-case basis. There's nobody around that knows more about those TADs than I do. I was on the city council. The one that's held up as a picture, the poster child for TADs, is the Atlantic Station. That is one that I was intimately involved in and held it up until such time as we had adequate female and minority participation.
Thank you very much. Delaney, you have one question to one candidate. So pick your candidate and ask your question, please.
I would love to ask Chairman Pitts about evictions. Now, Metro Atlanta has an incredibly high eviction rate. Previously, you have described this as a state legislature issue, but I'm curious, how would you like to, or how do you plan to get involved with preventing evictions or helping those who've been evicted?
It is a state issue, and you have to understand how the makeup of Fulton County, that's where experience comes in. Fulton County, unlike surrounding counties, 99% of the land within Fulton County is within one of the 15 cities. The cities have jurisdiction. Now, where do we come in? I'm working right now with responsible state legislators to come up with legislation that can be approved, not Pollyanna legislation, but legislation that can be approved that will have universal support by both Democrats and Republicans to address that issue. We tried it at the last session. We made some progress. It'll be at the top of our legislative package this next session as well.
All right, thank you to all of you. That's all the time we have for questions. The candidates will now have 60 seconds for a closing statement. We begin with Robb Pitts.
Well, thank you for having us here this afternoon. I'm delighted. Fulton County, as I said earlier, we're at war with Washington. The president has made it crystal clear that Fulton County is his #1 target. And there are two people within Fulton County who are at the top of his list: our district attorney and the chair of the Board of Commissioners of Fulton County, Robb Pitts. I've even been disinvited, banned from the White House. So we're aware of what's coming with us. Because of that, because of what's at stake, this is not the time, as I said earlier, for on-the-job training. This is not the time for raising taxes, as she is proposing, has proposed, and did I vote against it? Did I get the votes to vote it down? I absolutely did, and I will do it again because there are people in Fulton County who cannot afford it. Our seniors, our people on fixed incomes, and those young families who are just starting out, they cannot afford to live here under a tax and spend chair like this one would be.
Mr. Pitts, thank you. Mo Ivory, it's your turn for closing remarks.
That's what desperation looks like, lies to keep you from doing what you know Fulton County needs. Leadership is not about protecting the people in power. Leadership is about serving the people who put us there. Every budget, every vote, and every policy decision affects real people. A family trying to afford housing, a senior trying to age in place, a parent looking for an opportunity for their kid, or a resident who simply wants a county government that they can trust. If asking hard questions makes me unpopular in some rooms, I am okay with that. The people of Fulton County did not elect me to make the political establishment comfortable. They elected me to get results. The decisions we make over the next 4 years will shape this county for years to come. The voters of Fulton County have made something clear throughout this campaign. They want accountability, they want results, and they are ready for a new generation of leadership. I believe in Fulton County. I ask for your vote one more time, and I thank you so much for your support.
Thank you, candidates. Thank you, panelists. Early voting starts Monday, June 8th, and runs through Friday, June 12th. Election day is, of course, Tuesday, June 16th. Early voting, Mr. Pitts says. We thank all of the candidates and our panel of journalists. We also like to thank the Atlanta Press Club and Georgia Public Broadcasting for arranging today's debate. I'm Lisa Ram. Thank you for joining us for the Atlanta Press Club Louder Milk Young Debate Series. Have a great evening.